Hey everyone, welcome back to Master Site. Today we got game one of Lone Wolf GT out of Dallas, Texas. We got a awesome tournament down in Texas. Been going to Lone Wolf for the past 3 years, and I think this year was my favorite by far. We just had a blast. If you guys haven't been there, would highly recommend. Mark Cox runs an amazing event. And I had 5 amazing games and amazing hangouts with everybody afterwards. So I would highly recommend going if you haven't gone already. So let's go ahead, jump into our first game, and get this thing going here. So first game, I had a challenge match against Jesse Garrett. Basically, I threw out there that nobody from the South has beaten me yet at Lone Wolf, and Jesse stepped up to the plate here. So let's take a look at his list real quick. Jesse's got 2 regiments of Abyssal Ghouls. He has 2 hordes of Molochs with the Despoiler upgrade. He has 4 Tortured Souls. He has 2 Croniuses. He has a Seductress with the Gnome Glass Shield. And then it is knowledgeable with Host Shadow Beast 3. He has 2 Warlocks, both with the Drain Life 6, and he has the Well of Souls. So quick, easy 14 drops, 23 unit strength. And the scenario we were playing, again, for those that haven't been to Lone Wolf, they have very unique scenarios. So a lot of them are out of the based off of a book or scenario out of the book, I should say. Like this one is it's a modified Invade, but it has a lot of extras. So for this one, at the top of each turn, players elect how many dice they want to roll to determine visibility conditions. I'll be honest, Jesse and I, neither of us had shooting that really mattered. We had some longer range charge threats with, some flying speed 10 guys, but we basically just forgot this part. It didn't really matter for our shooting purposes, but effectively this scenario was supposed to have a poor visibility or variable visibility throughout the rounds. Excuse me. But that didn't matter in our game, so we just played straight up Invade with some of the extra bonus scores. So the victory conditions would be +1 score per unit strength entirely on your opponent's side of the board. And then at the end of the game, you get +3 points if you've killed more than your opponent, and +2 for having more inspiring units alive at the end. So Jesse starts with more inspiring units, so I'm at the back foot for that +2 there. Otherwise, it is pretty much straight up Invade and get some kill points while you're at it. So there is Jesse himself. Great guy, first time meeting Jesse, first time playing him, so had a blast. And here's our table. So with Lone Wolf and a lot of Texas events, they do player place terrain. So we end up alternating, putting down a piece of terrain. No terrain can be within 6 inches of each other, except for obstacles, and obstacles are placed at the very end. Obstacles can be placed within 6 inches of another piece of terrain. So we have 3 impassable pieces, one in the top left, the right, and the bottom right. 2 hills, 2 forests, a flat piece all the way on the far right, and then a couple of obstacles here and here. I won the roll to determine sides, so I chose this side mainly because we're playing Invade. I played Denied Flank. I don't expect him to stretch out across the board, but with his Tortured Souls, he has a lot more speed and variability, so I want this side of the board right here. That looks perfect to me. I'd be fine with that side, except for there was another piece of impassable, so that kind of breaks up the lines a little bit and can cause some issues, so I'd rather have the clean side. So after deployment, this is what it looks like. So I'm not going to go through my whole deployment, but you'll see this combination of Scavenger, and then my Lone Wolf down here, the special character that we get for the tournament. Lone Wolf's pretty fast. I can get it pretty much wherever I need to, position-wise on turn 2. So I like to start off with this kind of symmetrical, not really showing or telling where I'm going in any way to start off. But in the end, it ended with Horde of Enslaved Guardians with the J-Boots on the far left, Spear Regiment, Troop of Mummies, the Monolith, Horde of Spears, Sebic Ray, Mummy Regiment, Shobik, Soul Snare, another Troop of Mummies, the Undead Worm, the other Spear Regiment, and the last Enslaved Guardians. And then across from me here on the far left, we have Tortured Souls, another Tortured Souls with the Molochs behind them, Abyssal, the Warlock. He had his Ghouls. He had Cronius, Well of Souls, Cronius, Ghouls, Warlock behind, Tortured Souls, Molochs behind, and Tortured Souls on the far right. So very symmetrical from him, pretty standard, pretty much what I expected to see. I've played a few different variations of the Abyssal list, and this follows a lot of similarities to what I've seen in the past here. So we go ahead and roll for first turn because that's important in Invade, and I am one lucky guy to start off. I get first turn. So pretty standard. I move forward just as normal. The Tortured Souls over here are the only ones that are really threatening to get around my lines, so I start by moving my my wolf over this way. I should say his wolf and his seductress are somewhere in here. They're sitting behind the lines of something here. I think they're pretty much in the middle. Can't really tell where they are, but they end up popping their heads up here shortly. So anyway, just kind of move up, get Shobik up to get a decent line of sight over here. So my goal is, I know he's got to come across the board, so I want to threaten him being able to just at the double move up to get to the center line with most of his stuff. And try and punish that if he does, and if he doesn't, he's going to have to move into the charge range of some of my stuff in general. So yep, pretty straightforward, nothing too surprising here. No shooting, obviously, so nice and easy turn 1. That's a good overhead view of it. And then Jesse's turn 1, he does what we expect and moves forward. So this is where the Lone Wolf and the Seductress ended up here. Torch Souls over on the left moved up, kind of turned in, same on the right. Everybody else moved up. Molochs are sitting behind to threaten the counter charges. And what he did here is his Ghouls are a little bit in front of the Cronius Well Cronius, but the Cronius Well Cronius is all equal up, so straight line. And then these guys are all straight lining it as well. So yeah, nothing too surprising here. I did end up surging my mummies forward to get them into the forest for line of sight purposes, and I did the same over here. So again, I want to be able to threaten the units that he's going to push forward and start chaffing them up on his side of the board. And one of the major things that I'm looking at here as well is with Invade, these troops of mummies, they're pretty valuable pieces, but they're only 1 unit strength. Same with Shobik. He's only 1 unit strength. Same with the Worm, 1 unit strength. So you'll see in the game here that I'm going to treat those 1 unit strength pieces much more recklessly and try to insulate the 3 unit strength pieces that are going to be a better win condition for me in this game. So yeah, so we go on to turn 2, a little bit across left to right here. You'll also see the Best General trophy sitting on the left here. The winner gets to take that with them to their next game here. And on the right flank, a little closer up here. So turn 2, I see my opportunity, and I say it's time to get in there. So again, invade. I want to set the line across the center on his side of the board. I need to force him to break through, because if he does kill units in this line that I'm creating, he has 2 options. One is to try and run forward to get across the line, or 2, to turn and fight the things that are going to be on his side of the board. So really forcing him to make the difficult decisions is the idea. So a little bit closer up here. Again, I'm fine with him charging the enslaved guardians. I'm fine with him charging the spearmen in the front. These tortured souls aren't going to do anything to them. I would love it. And then I can just clean them up with a double charge as a counter. So we're hindered coming out of the forest here, but again, we're looking to just set the line. And on the right, we do the same. I do bring in the what's it called? The individual, the wolf. I do bring him in, thinking that, with Dread, he has Pathfinder, 6 attacks. I actually have a decent chance of breaking this Tortured Soul unit to start, because I also started by doing 2 wounds to it with the Soul Snare. So all that combination, my goal with this ultimately was I want to strip away this unit and threaten these Molochs. I think I'm strongest on the right flank here, and if I can turn the right flank, I think that it's going to crumble quite quickly from there. So I want to remove this unit out of the way right away. And I also have the ability, once I remove it, to just I will back up with my mummies and whatnot, because if he comes into the mummies afterwards, I have Shobik threatening depending on how far they go, just a straight charge into his flank, or a withdraw, turn, and then surge into the flank. Because he has to look forward at these enslaved guardians over here. He can't turn his flank towards them. And then the big thing that's really allowed me to do this is I charged his Well of Souls, which blocks up both Croniuses with a single chaff piece. So that's a good 700 points or so, 650, 700 points of his army that's being blocked up by 90 points of my army this turn. And ultimately, my target priorities are the main unit, strength units, so all the Tortured Souls, the Ghoul regiments, and then eventually the Molochs will be the targets. Yeah, it's just, I gotta play the numbers game, and those are the higher unit strength. They are also, a lot of them are the easier ones to kill. So yeah, we go into combat. We really sucked a lot of places. I mean, we got good 2 wounds on the well. We just wanted to make sure it couldn't fly away. That's nice. About 2 wounds over here is average, but when we already did 2 wounds over here, and we can only put in 3 wounds between a hindered mummy regiment and a 6 attack hero hitting on 3s, wounding on 2s with vicious, and then he has brutal as well. 5 is a little sad. Shobik doing 6, respectable. Keep it up, Shobik. None of that's going to stick, though. We all know it. So then going into Jesse's turn, he maneuvers a little bit like this, so some close-ups on the left. He goes his ghouls into my horde, and then he does a triple charge, actually, double charge with the Molochs, the Tortured Souls, and then he took the wolf into the flank here. Yep, pretty much expected. And then over on the right, he countercharges and charges with everything into the middle there. Countercharges Shobik. He sucks off all the wounds from everybody that ever lived onto the well. It's going to be magically healed again as that happens. And then the kind of the big thing, in my opinion, here, not breaking these Tortured Souls wasn't the end of the world. He wasn't going to be able to bring in these Molochs to anything. So I just have another turn to really just do what I want. And just try again. But what he does is he tries for a pretty risky play here. So he brings his Seductress in to my my wolf, and he countercharges with the Tortured Souls. So, Mass says they're just Tortured Souls are disordered, hitting on 4s, wounding on 4s. With 9 attacks, we'll say it's 3 wounds. The Seductress with Duelist, her 10 attacks, but hindered, so hitting on 4s, wounding on 4s, we'll say another 3 wounds there. And then the Host Shadow Beast that she has gives her 4 more attacks, hitting on 3s, wounding on 2s, we'll say another 3 wounds. So 9 wounds, kind of averaging up or rounding up on averages. Against a 13-15, need a 6 twice. I like my odds against that. And then the Seductress has its flank exposed to the Enslaved Guardians, which are in range. And yeah, she's not as scary when she has her flank exposed. And the Lone Wolf, even though the Seductress has an Own Glass Shield, the Lone Wolf will be able to pop Cloak of Death this turn, eliminating the Gnome Glass Shield and allowing me to just murder her relentlessly. So I was very happy with this. I know this Seductress can be quite a pain to deal with when it's picking on some of the smaller units with less support later in the game. So very happy to see this. So we go in. He does get the Host Shadow Beast off. And he kills that Mummy troop, which was expected. He kills the Scavengers, which is expected. And he learned from his mistake, because I had another Scavenger unit ready and waiting. He just backed up with the Well of Souls, so I can't charge one target and block all 3 again. Yeah, and then this Warlock he brought up, but it's slightly behind the Cronius here, so I'm not able to actually fit in there. And then he rolled well. Jesse did like 14 wounds to the wolf, which, man, that hurts. It's ridiculous, but it's not the end of the world there. Like, the Lone Wolf isn't really worth any kill points. It would have been nice to get the Cloak of Death off, and still had that dread aura going. But the Seductress got to reform, so now I'll be hindered and ensnared looking at this lady. So. Not ideal, but it is what it is. So my turn. I go ahead and make some moves here. So again, the goal is to focus on the units with unit strength. So Tortured Souls primarily here, and then the Abyssal Ghouls a little bit. And we want to be in a good position, which I think we're definitely in a ideal position at this point. So on the left, I ended up charging the Spearmen into this unit, which allowed for line of sight and charge into this Tortured Soul unit from the Enslaved Guardians. So this was a big one where, with his reform, he moved just within 12 of it. And this is the unit with the J-Boots, so I definitely am going to take advantage of this here. And I am just within the front arc of the Molochs, so I have the option to sidestep or even reform and get out of the front arc there. And then, we charge Acronius because we can. We flank charge the ghouls and countercharge in the front. And then we front charge with the worm and the Shobik. These guys were healed fully, so it's not actually odds in my favor. But I am protecting Shobik's flank from this Cronius now, because otherwise he would have been exposed. I am also giving Shobik an out, where if he does take the flank here, that Cronius should be looking at Shobik. Otherwise, if he turns and he looks towards the mummies, I am going to withdraw, turn, and surge into that flank. I'm getting multi-layered combats here, which definitely favors me when I have the surge options in the right places. So I'm identifying those and trying to take advantage where I can here. And then we charge the individual. We countercharge, so one thing that happened last turn was after he killed my individual, he overran with the tortured souls into the mummies and did another wound or two against them. But that allows me to get a countercharge without being hindered myself, so I'm good with that. And then this is a little bit of post-combat here. So a little post-combat. I did sidestep, got the 1 inch. Realistically, looking back at this is probably the big mistake. I should have just reformed in such a way that I was out of the front arc and looking almost directly at these skeletons here. I think I could have gotten an angle in such a way that he was unable to back up. So he would have had to use the wolf into the front of these guys to block them up if he wanted to utilize the Molochs anywhere else. So, slight mistake on my side that I should have chosen a better option here. Over on the right flank, nothing happens. I guess something happens. I pop the Gnome Glass Shield. I get like 5 wounds on the Structures, which is pretty darn good. I shot and did 1 wound over here. Just not things not going too great with that. But hit the Seductress, ended up wavering the Seductress, so that's at least good. The Seductress only can countercharge me. And she isn't able to get in towards the center here or like threaten Civic Ray or anything, so that's good. Shobik and the worm came in, did 8 wounds. A little below average, but they should not have broken them anyway. The big thing, if they did break that unit, I was going to be able to sidestep, and as long as I got 2 inches, I can block off the Cronius from seeing anything but the worm. And the Cronius into the front of the worm isn't enough to kill it, so he's going to have to bring some other stuff in. And the other big thing is Shobik's completely free at that point, and these Molochs can't get into Shobik. So that would have been a huge win if this gamble paid off. But the gamble not paying off, it's really not the end of the world. He gets a flank on the worm. I'm not too upset about that. It really allows Shobik then to not be sitting against this ghoul unit for the entirety of the game. So, and the absolute most painful thing that happened is the mummies, who are countercharging, hitting on 4s, wounding on 2s, do no wounds to tortured souls. 1 wound is acceptable, no wounds is not. Tortured souls are free to fly, which is unfortunate to say the least. So in the tournament you get 1 reroll So I did a lot of wounds to this ghoul unit, and I rolled a snake eyes. So I had to use my reroll here because I did not want these mummies to get flanked by this this guy or this guy. Yeah, that just would not have been fun. So used my reroll and burned it, unfortunately. Hopefully we don't need it any longer for the rest of the game, but hint, hint, we do. So his turn ends up looking like this. We're just getting into a scrum now, so let's go a little closer here. He moves over his Abyssal Warlock to block up this unit effectively. My front arc is not able to see the Molochs, so I'm not able to actually charge and get past. So again, I think the other reform option from last turn would have been significantly better, left me more options, and forced his hand to take certain charges. Because Torture Souls come back in. Luckily, I did a wound to this Torture Soul unit, otherwise a rear charge was happening, so, we take the small wins, I guess. He double charges with the well and the Molochs into the spear or skeleton warriors. He has to use his wolf to chaff over here now because he doesn't have to chaff over there. He could have vice versa it and used the wolf over there. This guy, maybe not. He might not have been able to get in here, but either way. And then he, sees, oh, my Tortured Souls are free, so he just pivots and moves 8 inches this way, and now Molochs are in, and I didn't get anything out of it. So I get a unit to die for free, and I didn't kill any unit strengths, so not great. He countercharges, he flank charges. Yeah, not much I can do about that. Knew it was going to happen. Couldn't even really set up to make him hindered. The only way I could block it off entirely was if I moved the skeletons and gave up a flank charge on the skeletons. Just, they're the same unit strength, so it didn't really seem worth it to me at that point. Hopefully these guys just hold. So after combat, or it'll be my turn here, but after combat, he ended up killing that mummy troop, and he backed off. He ended up killing the worm and stayed reformed facing Shobik. But good news is he did not break the horde, so we're still in it, boys. Yeah. So, and then he didn't break this horde. Those mummies are fresh. Yeah. So my turn is just a lot of countercharging for most of it here. So let's go a little deeper in. On the left, I have them here still. We are going into the well because we don't want it flying away. Doesn't matter which unit we go into. No wounds are going to stick, so might as well. I was not able to withdraw the mummies because I was going to still be within an inch of the well, so I can't do any withdraw multi-charge shenanigans here, and I can't hit the flank of this guy over here. So what I do end up doing is I just withdraw Shobik, turn a 180 degrees, and then I get him surged in to these bad boys here. I am in the rear of these guys. I just can't let them sit here and threaten flanks as well as be a free 2 unit strength alive here. So this puts me in a better position anyway. So right flank that I thought was strong turns out is being a little bit weaker than I was hoping. The left flank is holding a lot more than I thought it would, though, so we have that Horde of Enslaved Guardians on the other side of the board, and they are in a good position. So after combats, I did murder the Abyssal character, the Warlock over here. We just keep slap fighting. Basically, I do a wound, he does a wound or two because he's affected by the phalanx. And we just keep life leeching off of each other, so it's, nobody's getting anywhere. I killed the Abyssal Warlock, and I tried to back up. I needed a 3-inch backup to get out of the Cronius, but I only get 2 inches, so Cronius is going to be able to charge. But Math says that he should only do about 6 wounds to me on averages. It's swingy because he has a d6 attack value, but even if he does a little bit more, 7, 8 wounds, I'm inspired, -17. I should be able to hold that and then, put a hurt on him in the counter charge. So, and then Shobik killed his guys, reformed like this. Dice were being dice. I only did like 6 wounds with Shobik out of 30 attacks. But luckily I rolled, he was just out of inspiring range, and luckily I rolled the 8 that I needed to break him. It was an uphill battle, and Jesse was not letting up with some of his nerve rolls either, so... and I flank charged this unit here. You see, and I shot him with the Soul Snare. You see they're up to 8 wounds, and they're not inspired. I needed just a 6 one time, and I didn't get that one either. But I did kill the Seductress, and I went for the overrun, which would have brought me into the flank of the Abyssal Ghouls here. And I rolled a 1 on the overrun. I think I needed like a 3. So, unfortunate. Stuff happens. And, going for something like that, now this unit's flank's exposed, and I had a feeling they were probably going to die even if I just made this and this a front charge, but I went for gold. I saw 2 unit strength within reach, and it just fell out of reach. So Jesse's turn 4, I believe this is, bottom 4. He ends up countercharging here. He does take the front and the flank. He takes a flank with the Abyssal Ghouls into the mummies, which, that's fine. Those mummies are nice and fresh. They've been regenning. They've been getting healed. They're just holding strong in the middle. The skeleton horde, on the other hand, is not long for this world. I think they're sitting on like 14 wounds or something, so... and then he does everything else we were expecting over here, so a little bit closer on the left flank, comes in, does the Cloak of Death wound. On the right flank, he hits, need Snake Eyes to happen over there for me to hold out. But Snake Eyes don't happen, so we're skipping forward a little bit further here. Both of us were running a little low on clocks, so I apologize for not getting as many pictures in. But he kills the horde here. These guys angle like so to face the skeletons. And then the Cronius turned around to face towards the middle here. I think he could only face like this because where Shobik was the turn prior. His goddamn Cronius just ruins my day. And he does something like 12 wounds to me up here and just fucking bitch slaps these guys off the table. And oh my god, it was painful. It was so painful. Because I think it was 1 wound at the Cloak of Death, and I think he did 10 or 11 wounds to me. With, he rolled max for his attacks. So, looking at the table at the beginning of that last turn, it was very winnable, I would say. It's not favorable, but it's very winnable and very drawish from there. Because we count the unit strength. I would have this 3, I'd have these 3. These 3 aren't looking great, but we'll see. I got tricks I can do. I'm blocking with the Soul Snare this turn, so this 3 just might live. And then I'm, bringing in the cover up with Shobik here to protect the the mummies, but then again, he's got a Cronius, he's got the well, he's got a horde of these guys. But these guys would not be looking this way if I had a horde of enslaved guardians over there. And that, I think, is the kicker. So, but I digress. So we are well behind the 8 ball here. Jesse is in control. He is driving the car, and we are just a speed bump at this point. So he kills it. He overruns, does that. On my turn, I move, I countercharge, I killed the unit. I had the just blocking up with the Soul Snare at this point. Because it's not a unit strength, I don't care if it dies at this point. And Shobik killed took the rear of the Abyssal Ghouls, killed them, and then sidestepped to get out of the front arc of the Cronius. That's why he's in this position here. So Jesse's turn, looked like he went ahead and took the front of Shobik. He moved his Abyssal Warlock 1 inch behind Shobik, so there's no withdraw bullshit shenanigans. Damn you, Jesse. Good play. Alright. He took the Soul Snare. He's taking the flank. This is called a mummy sandwich. And then over here, he's taking a flank. And we were having so much fun over here, Jesse, where we just take a life leech wound off each other every turn. I swear, these guys have been in combat for like 4 turns over here, 3 turns, and it was still 1 wound to 2 wounds. And there's no heals going in over there outside of life leeches. So that, yeah, we're loving life. And yeah, so his turn. Yep, a little closer up here. He tries to drain life some stuff, get some wounds back because why not? And this is how it looks at the end of his turn. You'll notice Jesse was running low on clock here, so this was end of turn 5 for Jesse. And we decided that we're going to play through the remaining turn once the clock is ended. So Jesse's going to be able to play his turn 6. We agreed if there was a turn 7, he would not be able to move anything. So, but at this point, it's, looking bleak. The only, he gave me a little saving grace where he kind of flubbed the roll over here. He didn't do quite enough. I survived. He had 1 low roll nerve over there on that flank. So I appreciate it, Jesse. I appreciate it. So and then he reformed like so. So my turn, and I say, well, I just, at this point, it's a scale. It's not a you win the scenario, you get max points. So there's a scaled scoring. So me getting stuff across the board actually matters to mitigate the stuff that he's going to get across the board. So what I do is I move the spearmen. They were still in the front. I have the monolith in range to surge them even further. So they surge straight into the barrier here. Out of front arc of the Moloch. So, yay, we're safe. We got 3 unit strength guaranteed because this is going to be Jesse's last turn. Then Shobik says, well, I don't like Cronius in the flank and, all this other crap over here because he had Molochs over here too that were looking at him. And so he just says, all right, I'll just take my loss and go on the other side of the board. Actually, these guys are facing over here, so I'm sacrificing the monolith, but 1 unit strength monolith for 3 unit strength skeletons, worth it. And then we go back in over here, but you know what we did again? We actually rolled amazing for hits. We got 8 hits against Tortured Souls. Now, defense 4 is really tough, though, so we couldn't wound him with those 8 hits. And you know what that means? That means on Jesse's turn, he gets to fly over me and get on the other side of the board to get 2 more unit strength. But Jesse did another huge favor and ended up snake-eyesing me on turn 6. So I'm devastated, though, so I'm only 1 unit strength with that unit instead of 3. So, fair's fair. A little trade here, a little trade there. A little bit too late for me, but Yeah. And then he just walks everything across. Now, from here, I think this is the last picture I have. He killed the monolith, so that was picked up. He backed up the horde to get them in or on that side of the board, and then the wolf was not able to get across the board. It's only half a unit strength though, so it's not a big deal. So in the end, he had the 2 from the Tortured Souls, 3 here, so 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 to my 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 way over there. So he's up by 6. By the way, there's no turn 7, so. So he's up by 6 for the scenario. He has more inspiring units left, so that was the +2 from the very beginning. And then he also had the kill points. So he's sitting at +2, +3, plus the 6, so he had 11 more. In the scale of things, that was going to be a 16-4 win for Jesse. So. Yeah, just a good game. I mean, Jesse is a great player, great opponent. We had a blast. We hung out all weekend, and Jesse did what I asked him to do, which was hold on to that trophy that he took from me here. So maybe a little spoilers here, but Jesse ended up winning the best general award. So if I'm going to lose to somebody, it's got to be the guy that takes that home. So I really appreciate it. So Jesse, it was a pleasure. I'm looking forward to seeing you at other events, and especially at Masters, since Jesse made the Texas Masters team. So everybody better be looking out for this guy. But yeah, that's what I got for Game 1. Game 2 will be out shortly. And we'll see what we can do with this submarine of ours that we've built here. So thanks for watching, everybody, and we'll see you next time.